Howdy folks, Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness, and we are doing our playthrough of Ligny. This is one of the games in the Napoleon's Last Battles quad from SPI. This is the designer boxed edition with mounted map. This is the folio of just the Ligny scenario. That's actually what we're using here. This is the paper map from this Ligny folio. All right, and you can see laid out here in front of you, there's the Prussians in this greenish color, the French in the blue. Let me change the camera angle for you. Right, I'm trying to get it so that all the units are visible. Prussians over here, Ligny's here. There's a first and second corps, third corps. The French have their Guard Corps, third corps, fourth corps, and the first, second, and fourth cavalry corps, I believe they are. Now, this is the starting positions. If you watched my how to play, this is similar, but the French were up here engaged. What I had done for that how to play is I had already completed off camera the French first turn of movement. And I did that so I could talk about the strategies involved for the French, where they were trying to surround things directly by movement, sort of the macro sense of flanking and surrounding, and where they were going to try to attack in a series of sequenced attacks to outflank and surround particular units. And so I had the movement already done. We talked about the odds of the sequencing attacks, etc. Okay. So now this is the actual playthrough. So I've rewound. I'm back to square one, reset up on the new map, the Ligny folio. And so I'm going to talk through this in this video. I think just the first French move and the attacks as the start to sort of like, does my thought process, can I recreate what I had done for the how to play? We'll see how close I am to following my strategy, and I'll talk through as I move things, my decision-making process, what I'm attempting to accomplish, and then we'll roll to see how those attacks succeed or not, and look at the results, at the outcomes of my decision-making process. Now, the reason I'm talking about this a little bit is I am working on a series of videos on decision-making in war games, or games in general. How do we decide where to move, where to attack, what kind of strategies to employ? And so one of the important parts of decision-making is how good is what's the quality of our decision-making, and how can we judge that? And can the quality of our results alone tell us whether our decisions were of good quality or not? And you might be surprised by the answer. But so that's foreshadowing those videos. And these pair of videos will be very nice and illustrative in that regard. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to maneuver here. Now, let me adjust something. All right. So before we get started, we need to talk about the victory conditions for this particular scenario, because we did not talk about that in the how to play. And I want to talk about one of the optional rules also. So the first thing I want to do is talking about the victory conditions in this scenario of Ligny. It's all based on demoralization levels, okay? If the French get demoralized, game over. Prussians win. If the Prussians get demoralized and the French are not, the French will win. Now, obviously, there is stated a disintegration level for the Prussians. You won't meet it. I mean, if the French get demoralized first, they lose. And if they demoralize the Prussians and they're not demoralized, they will win. So even though it actually lists the disintegration level, for this scenario, it doesn't matter. Now, there's some modifier here. The Prussian demoralization level, don't have it off the top of my head. Let me grab the rule sheet. All right, so we can see, I'm going to zoom out to show you this. All right, so here's they're talking about the demoralization levels. Now, they don't actually list the French demoralization level as being at 35 points, but that's the level at which the French will lose, because they have to demoralize the Prussians and have lower than 35. So you consider their demoralization level to be 35, okay? I don't know why they didn't just say it for this battle, it's at 35. I mean, technically the morale of the French would be higher than that, but taking that many losses at the start would literally set the whole campaign back, and it wouldn't make sense to go forward. But for some reason, they didn't define that as just a straight demoralization level. So the Prussian demoralization level is 55. However, this section here lists 7 hexes. They're the 4 hexes of Ligny and the 3 hexes of Saint-Amand. And that's why I am zoomed in, or was zoomed in on that section. Let's zoom back. All right. So Saint-Amand is these 3 hexes, and Ligny is these 4. Okay. For every hex that the French occupy with a unit, at that moment, the Prussian demoralization level is considered to be 3 points less. Okay, so anywhere from 3 to 21 point reduction in the demoralization level. That's the level, the target. Okay, that 55. Sorry about that. That's a little blurry because it's too close. I'm not going to zoom back and forth again, but it does not add or subtract points. You're not measuring victory points in this. So Quatre Bras is happening off to the west here. And in that one, you count victory points. Victory points for the amount of troops killed of the enemy and for occupation of Quatre Bras. And you get bonus points if you held it at the very end of the game. We're not doing that here. These points are not plus or minus victory points. They're lowering the current target demoralization level for the Prussians. Again, sorry for trying to point that there. Maybe if I zoom back to this level right now. All right. So that 55 Prussian demoralization level, if they had 4 of those hexes, that would be 12 points. So then it would be 43. That means if at this moment, while they're occupying those 4 hexes, and the Prussians have lost 43 strength points of units, they would lose. They would become demoralized. It would be game over. Assuming the French haven't, because they would lose immediately. All right? Now, if the French lose one of those towns, the Prussian demoralization target will go back up. And when they gain them, they go back down. It's not add 3 or take 3 points off the Prussian demoralization every time you turn you hold it. It's not cumulative turn by turn. It's at this moment, for this turn, how many of these do you occupy? It could be 0 to 7 of them, 0 to 21 points of adjustment of the morale target level for the Prussians, and you do that. Okay. I've seen people play that wrong, where they're trying to count them as victory points, and they're trying to apply that every turn. Don't do that. The French would win so easily if they could get turn over turn points for holding these guys. So that's not the way you do it. Okay, so that's the victory conditions. So obviously the French need to kill Prussian units, and 55 is a lot. So they better concentrate on taking these towns. Okay, now these towns looks nice defensive. There's a river here and all that kind of stuff. So that does mean it looks like a little challenge to fight their way in there, but the French need to do that. Now, does that mean they need to do that right away? No, because if you grab all of these towns, let's say the French charge in here and successfully push the Prussians away, but they haven't killed any Prussians. Doesn't help you. You know, the target demoralization level has been increased by 21 points. They've taken them all. But unless they then have killed, it would need to be 34. They don't win, right? You got to make the kills and take the towns, okay? So, yeah, you want to start to drive in early to try to occupy them, to push the French out and potentially squeeze the French or the Prussians and make the Prussians maybe, stand and lose some troops there. But just taking those towns by themselves is not enough. Okay, so that's enough for the victory conditions. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the actual play is the optional rule for the guard. Okay, the French guard has a optional rule here. Now, I do normally play with the combined arms optional. I highly recommend that you play with the combined arms. Now, I've noticed that a lot of people do not like to play with the French Guard optional rule. Imperial Guard 12.2 is the optional rule for the folio games, the individual scenarios. And the way it is written, it's a very egregious burden on the French. Basically, they say that any unit with a guard designation, a GD, and that turns out to be all these guys here, okay? If they are involved in a battle and the result is an AE, AR, or EX, the French demoralization level is immediately reduced by 20 points. Now, it's kind of weird because this scenario, they don't actually list a demoralization level, even though technically it is. That 35 strength points to lose would be down to 15. But even though they don't call it a demoralization level, it is a demoralization level. But yeah, that's nasty. That's really tough, Now, two things. One is, as written, this is strict interpretation of this rule, AE, AR, or EX. If you roll the dice and get that EX and you have one guard unit in that battle, bam, that gets triggered. Now, the way most people play it and the way I play it, if you're playing with these Imperial Guard rules, is only if the exchange actually causes a guard unit to be killed, okay? It doesn't say that. The way the word is written, it says if any infantry unit of, excuse my French, my bad French. It does say every infantry unit. So the guard artillery and the guards cavalry and horse artillery are exempt. Only the infantry. Okay, but it says involved in an attack during the French player's combat phase. So it's only when the French are attacking. Okay. And the result of that attack, i.e. the die roll, the roll that you roll is in exchange, the French is demoralization is changed. All right. Even if you don't end up losing a guard unit in that exchange, right? So you might have a mix of guard units and non-guard units. You get an exchange, you lose the other units, you don't lose a guard unit. According to the way this rule is written right here, that Imperial Guard 12.2, just rolling in exchange with any one guard infantry unit in there will, bang, kill your demoralization. So most people I know play it that only if the exchange causes you to lose a guard unit do you have that demoralization adjustment. I highly recommend, if you play with this Imperial Guard rule, to play it that way, okay? Now, another thing you can do is you can take a look at the way the rule is done in the campaign game. It's slightly different, okay? And one of the things that explicitly excludes the young guard, it says you've got the chasseurs and the grenadier guards. Okay, these are the big guys. These would be considered the old guard. This make up the Imperial Guard, the old guard, and you leave these two little guys out. I would do it that way. So a lot of people don't like to play with the Imperial Guard optional at all. I am going to for this scenario, but I'm going to do that little lighter one. I can use the young guard, I can use the artillery, I can use the cavalry. But if I use the grenadier or chasseur of the Imperial Guard and I get a AE or AR boom, that demoralization comes up. And if the exchange comes up, only if I have to lose one of these old guards. Okay, I actually got one guy off there, not being able to see. Okay, there's some more down here. All right, if any of these guys get killed in the exchange, then bam, that would trigger that. So I'm going to play with that optional rule along with the combined arms. All right. So that's all I wanted to say. That's over 10 minutes, unfortunately, but that's part of the you want to know what the what rules you're playing by, and you want to know definitely what your victory conditions are. So I'm going to start the move here talking about what my strategy or what my goals are vis-a-vis my objectives in trying to meet those victory conditions. Right, so I'm going to start zoomed out here so you can see everybody in one. And I'm going to talk about my general plan, and then I'll zoom in on certain areas as I start to do the actual maneuvers. Now, my goal as the French, obviously, is to try to kill Prussian units. So I always want to look for targets of opportunity. What can I surround just by moving, just by maneuver? Something that I can trap in the zone of controls, where I can outflank them, where I can do that via maneuver. I call that a macro surround, a macro flank, as opposed to a micro one. And we'll demonstrate those where I look for that places where I can time attacks to try to catch units and surround them through a series of attacks. So first off, I'm going to look at the flanks here to see what's weakest. Now, this here, there's a river here, but this is open-ended up here. Right now, the Prussians don't have anything on this flank. Over here on this side, they've got units in the backfield. There's a stream back here. So even though the French can sort of get around here, there's no real way to, in a macro sense, in a broad, to try to count on that. The Prussians have this defense in depth back here, the Third Corps. So it just doesn't make sense in my mind. Now, at some point, we might try to maneuver more over here. We probably want to try to push these units back across the river just to help us, in a sense, defend here, keep them from trying to do nuisance units around our back. But I think, if we protect this flank here, try to tidy it up, use this river line, forests, towns here as a defense, and then concentrate here, Ligny, Saint-Amand, and try to bust this flank. That's my main goal, okay? So looking at the lowest hanging fruit first, I look at the Prussian line. They've got staggered every other here. They have no surroundable salient. Now, this guy here at Ligny, you could say, well, yeah, someone could get around here. Well, there's no way we can get around here right now. I mean, there's a stream here. Remember, streams cost plus 2 additional movement. Not 1, plus 2 additional movement points. Forests cost 2 for the infantry, 4 for cavalry. So we're not getting in here, right? We're not going to just be able to maneuver around here. We can't get that far. They've got all these units back here. So this guy is not subject to outflanking in that macro sense. However, we do want to take Ligny, and I want to try to see if I can kill one of these guys. Now, one of the things to note about this system is if you stay spread out like every 2 hexes, there's no way in one combat turn that you can force a sequenced set of attacks where you can surround one of these guys and kill them. Okay? It's because there's a zone of control that at most you can get it on 2 or 3 of their sides. You can't get something on the back. And there's no place that you can advance to get next to these and put a zone of control there, because there's not units here or here or here to attack. Whereas here, potentially we can. When we're like this, we can attack this guy and advance to here, and we have a guy here, and we've advanced here, we've then surrounded him. So we are going to try that. That's our goal here, and we want to get this guy. So let me start to do the maneuvering. Now, one of the things I often do is I look at where I want to hit, and I start looking at units that are the farthest away that can get to where I want to go, okay? So, like, you know, this guy here, 1, 2, 3, 4, he can look at it. He can't get up this far. This guy here, he can't reach this guy, but he can reach here. No, he can't reach here, but he can reach here. This guy, he can get up next to there potentially, or along here. These guys can get anywhere around here. And this guy could get here, or he could get across the river. Now, so I'm going to surround this guy here. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to move this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So that's going to be putting a zone of control on here. And as long as we're here, this guy will not be able to retreat. Now, if I just have a guy here, we're going to need to attack this guy. So one of the things I want to do is I want to use this cavalry to attack this guy. So I'm going to think next, okay, you know, how much do I need here to get odds against this? Not sure yet, but let me figure out here. I want this guy to be able to attack here. So let me use the cavalry to attack here. And I can come across this river. I could circle all the way around, or I could just come into the town. I can't get all the way around here. There's just not enough movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, that would cost 8 to get there to try to surround this guy. So not going to do that. We'll just move to here. This allows this guy 2 strength. Let me zoom in. All right, here I'm gonna try to. You zoomed in enough, but see enough of these guys down here that we're drawing on where they're going to move to. All right. So the advantage of this here, I talked about this in the how to play where I was set up, and this is how I'm deciding to get there, that this guy can potentially retreat to here when he attacks at 1 to 2, here, or here. Okay. Now, if he succeeds in his 1 to 2 and he stays here, these guys can come and attack him, but they can't surround him. He'll be able to still retreat back to here. So I like his position. All right. Now this is a 3 strength guy. There's nope, there is a town here, so that's doubled to 6. All right. So we need to get back there. Oh, brother. So we're going to need more strength here. He can't get around, but he can get to here. Okay. Now, we need to get a zone here. So we need to get this guy to here. 1, 2, 3. Now, we could use one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could use either one of these. This is a 3 doubled to a 6. So 10. We would only have a 1 to 1 still. This adding in 14, we'd have a 2 to 1. Need 12 or more for a 2 to 1 against the net 6. So having either one of these here. Now I could throw more in there, but I'm going to have to attack this part, and I want to hopefully potentially take it. This is a town, so it's doubled, and there's 8 strength points in here. There's a 3, 4. Now this is a reduced step. I mentioned this in the how to play. Normally you don't flip these guys over in the course of the battle. It's not a step loss game. You normally only get this way when you've been eliminated, quote unquote eliminated, and then a leader like rallies you, reorganizes to get you to bring back, and you come back in your reduced state. So this obviously reflects previous maneuverings before this day of battle here. And this way in the setup. You don't normally get this way in the course of a day's battle. All right, so this is 8 doubled to 16. So I'm going to try to at least get a 1-to-1 on that. Now this guy could get up there. All right, like I said, he could go 1, 2, 3, 4 along here. So he can get to either one of those two. So, let's go here. I could go here, I could go here. I'm not sure where I want to go. He's not going to be able to get up in range. Okay, this guy is 4 doubled to 8. I think we're going to have a 1-to-1 on him, because if we throw these guys here, all right, so 10, 16, that's exactly 16 to 16. 8 doubles, 16, 2 5s and a 6. So that'll allow these guys here to attack at 2-to-1. I'm trying to remember if in my mind, I'm trying to think back to the how to play, if I was saying this was a 3-to-1 between the, I may have not realized that this was a town underneath here. That this 3 is doubled to 6. Because I may have been using this guy in here. No, I don't think so. Let's do that. So this is only a 2-to-1. This is not a 3-to-1. It'd be nice if it was a 3-to-1. Can we make it a 3-to-1? We would have to give up our attack here. So of these guys here, we would need, so 6, 18. If we moved one of these up to here, well, let me think it through. All right, so I have verified that I made a mistake when I was filming my how to play and calculating the odds. This here is not clear terrain. There is a town under there, so this guy is a 6. And I had been calling out clear, and these two guys are going to be sufficient there. So I need to adjust my plan here. So I definitely want to, because this is my low-hanging fruit. This is the unit that I can surround just by this movement, and I've done it, but I want to maximize my odds. Not in the sense of get the highest odds possible, because I could throw everything and I could get a 4-to-1 or more on this. But I don't want to risk the exchange. I want to have a 3-to-1 odds on this, and these two guys are not enough, all right? And while if this wasn't doubled, this would be with 14 points here. That's only a 2-to-1. I need to get up to 18 points. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to adjust this. This guy started here. I'm going to throw this guy over here so that I have these guys, 19 points to attack here. These guys here are still 16 against this. We're only going to have 5 against it. We're only have a 1-to-2 here. Now, I could utilize an artillery from over here to bombard this guy. We will see as we pivot our move. We want to be able to get maximal odds to try to kill another guy over here. So we will maneuver that way. But okay, let me figure out here if I can still get a 1-to-2 here. I don't think so the way that I wanted to do this attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this artillery could get to here, but you can't bombard over the forest. If you could get here, you could come bombard along this hex side that is adjacent to this forest. But these artillery here can't get there. And this guard unit, maybe we can get this one up there. Yep, we could get him to there. Well, let me figure it out. All right, so due to my mistake here, previously in the planning, thinking this was clear terrain, this is a good example of like military planning, and the plan goes awry. No plan survives contact with the enemy. So we're having to adjust here and figure out how to get our odds. So we're still getting our 3-to-1 here. All right, by utilizing all these guys, and we're getting our 1-to-1 here. Now we can get a 1-to-1 here, which we really have, but we moved 1 unit here. We can actually use this cavalry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He can get to here. He can attack across the river. But since this guy's not across the river, I mean, this guy's doubled. Remember, the defensive multiplyings are not cumulative, so a town and across the river doesn't benefit, but these guys are, one guy's not. Across the river, one is, so he's just 8, and this will be 9, so it'll be 1-to-1. So we can still get a 1-to-1 there, all right? Now we are trying to make sure we can still get our 2-to-1 or 3-to-1s here, where we're going to want to sequence an attack, trying to, have units here, here, and here, succeed here first, advance, and then have this guy surrounded to try to kill him. I believe I made a mistake. This unit here, which you can't quite see, it's slightly off. This guards horse artillery, I had moved up to here, I believe it was. Was it here or here? I can't get there. 1 to the road, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can get here. It can't get up here. I think what I had done is I may have had these stacks slightly skewed. I may have sort of saw with my bad eyesight that thinking this guy was already on the road and gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to here. I think it was that he was going to bombard there and add that strength in. No, he can't get there. So I am going to have to adjust what I'm doing. But I believe we want to move this cavalry here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, and this one, horse artillery, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that we can get combined arms on these different stacks here. So we want to make sure we have at least a cavalry here and here. Now this stack's probably going to attack here. I'm going to need to stack up guys here, and if I got guys here, come here, this artillery can bombard up there. So I've got cavalry here, and I've got other cavalry over here. So we're moving them into position. None of this artillery or guards artillery or can get into where they can reach. Now we could put an artillery on this here. If he can't get into range there, we're not attacking this. Let's see if he can get here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He can. And now we're getting better odds here. So we have 8, 13. That's only enough for a 1-to-1, but we've got combined arms, so that'll be a 2-to-1 there. So right now we do have enough for a 3-to-1 here, a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1, and a 1-to-2 here. So we're trying to see if we can get our 3-to-1 odds there. That's our most important goal. So while we do have, let me adjust this camera. We have these guys here as potential targets. They are secondary. We would like to push them out of that town and push these guys back and start driving them back across the river. But that's secondary right now to the goal here. Now we need to protect the flank of these guys. So as we're attacking here, we need to move something up here, at least along the road, to block these guys. So we will still do that. But we might peel, let's see. This, we could get a cavalry to here. So right now the plan is to have this cavalry here. If this, now this cavalry, yeah, he's gonna have to attack here. Because if we need to attack infantry and or artillery here, we've got this artillery here, and we need this artillery can hit either one of these, but this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, yeah, he could get to say here, and he could shoot there. So we have a choice. My original setup that I had in the how to play, I had this artillery under here to attack this one, but he could be behind the lines fighting. But I was sort of wanting to have more strength up front because I don't think there's enough total infantry to stack fully across here. But so let's figure out the rest of this. All right, so what we're doing here is we're maneuvering up. I'm actually going to put this artillery here and actually close assault with it here. We are wanting to, when we advance, have more up next to it for if the Prussians want to counterattack. So instead of having it like, say, back here where it can bombard, I'm going to put it up front, and we're going to move this infantry here. And I normally put cavalry or artillery on the top, infantry on the bottom. That's just a thing I do. You can do whatever way you want to. So we have 8 here and 8 here with an artillery, cavalry, and infantry. So we have combined arms. So 8 and 8 is 16 versus 8, 2 to 1, shift up to 3 to 1. So with these two stacks and this here, we will have our 2 to 1. So now we want to make our 2 to 1 happen here. So to try to get our 3 to 1 odds on this guy here, we're going to use, he's going to be able to shoot here. So we need 13 more. So we need a 5 and 2 4s. And we need one of them to be a cavalry, because these guys are all attacking here. So we can pull this cavalry here. This cavalry has to be here. And this guy here, 1, 2, 3, reach here. So we're going to have him and him. 6. And so we need to use this 5, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This way, not to there, not to the zone, this way. All right, so there's 8, 13, 16, 2 to 1 combined arms. So he'll do that. Now I had previously had in my how to play, I had this 5, 4 over here, but due to errors, we have to juggle here, and this is the best we can do. Again, focusing on this. So we can move a unit over here to occupy this townage. Over here, I want to bring some guys over here, so I need to, these two guys haven't moved, these all have moved, these haven't moved yet. All right, so let me figure that out. All right, so we're gonna come here. We can't get a surround on this guy, but we're gonna attack with, excuse my reach here, combined arms. So infantry, cavalry, have the horse artillery here, ready to fire. This guy here, we're gonna bring a infantry over from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring a cavalry up here. Well, let's see, can we 6? We're not gonna be able to get a 2 to 1 shift to 3 to 1. We'll get it most 1 to 1. Let's see. I'm gonna come here. Yeah, so we're gonna use this cavalry here. And then this horse artillery can shoot from back here. We're going to go ahead and just position this guy up. 1, 2, 3, 7 here. This infantry 1, 2, 3 here. So we're forming a line here, occupying this town. Don't want these guys to come pouring through. So here we have 8 strength points against 6. 1 to 1. We'll shift up to 2 to 1 for combined arms. 10 against 4 doubled is 8. 1 to 1, shift up to 2 to 1. Here we got our 8, 5, and 3, 16. That'll be 3 to 1. Here we got our 8 and our 8 with cavalry, artillery's under there, infantry's under there. So that's a 3 to 1. But the odds, the order of this attack is important. We want to do this one first to try to advance here to surround this guy and then kill him. Okay. We have our 3 to 1 here, using all these guys here. 19 versus 6, 3 to 1. We don't have an odd shift. We're using this cavalry over here. We don't have an odd shifts here either. 8, 16. We got 16, 1 to 1. And we do have an odd shift here. Actually, we were able to get 8, 13, 1 to 1 up to a 2 to 1. So we have slightly better odds here than our original plan was, calling just a 1 to 1 here and a 1 to 1 here, 3 to 1. So we're a little better off actually here, but we had to change our maneuvering along there. So we have down over here all these guys to move. They're not critically important, so I'll just quickly do those off screen and then we'll roll some dice. All right, so Young Guard moved up to here, and underneath this Guard horse artillery, Grenadier Guards moved to here, Chasseur Guards moved to here, the Guards artillery here, the Guards main cavalry is here, and there we go. So we're ready for our attacks. All right, so again, as we said, the sequencing can be important. Sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does. Now, over here, because these guys are all attacking together, doesn't matter the order of this one or this one. We're not dependent on their zones of control. We can do these in any order, doesn't matter. Same thing down here. There's no surrounding. There's no trying to catch someone. It's only really here that it matters. But let's go ahead and just roll this one first. This was our low-hanging fruit that we were going after. So you have a 3 to 1. We roll a 5, which is enough at 3 to 1 to get the defender retreat. So the first casualties happen. Let's see here. We will actually push the artillery forward into the town. All right, let's go ahead and do this flank here then. So 1 to 2 odds. Roll a 5, they fail, they will retreat to here. Now we could retreat across the river, it might seem safer, but there's no way with these units that they can actually get around here because of this stream to surround them. So they'll be able to retreat here. So they can stay on this side of the Ligny River and occupy this town. So we want to do that if at all possible. All right, so now we're gonna actually hit Saint Armand here. Again, it doesn't matter the order between these guys. So this is just our grand 1 to 1. We got, 16 strength points here of attack against the adjusted 16. We fail. Okay, they rolled a 4. So we will retreat these guys to here. This guy to here. This guy to here. All right. So appears like we've got a little bit of a bulge here, but for the Prussians to try to take advantage of that and do a sequence attack to eliminate one of these guys, they're going to have to be, attacking the guys on the flank and, this position here, they're all there. So it would be very foolish for the Prussians to try to counterattack against this. Let's see what happens here. So we're using that horse artillery, that. So again, that was 13 against net 8. It shifted up for combined arms, so it's a 2-to-1. And they rolled a 6. So they actually did kind of poorly here on this flank. They did manage to kill that guy. He will retreat over to here. Which he has to, because this is open and this would need to cause a displacement. So you have to, don't displace if you can retreat into an open spot. So same with this guy, can't retreat here, so he has to retreat here. So the Prussians defending Saint-Armand did an excellent job repulsing the French attack of the French 3rd Corps, whereas this guy here out on their flank did get spanked. Now, before we do the last battle in Ligny, where the order of attacks, let's finish these flanks over here. Okay, see if we can get any better luck trying to drive these guys around. So let's start here. This is an 8 for in the town, and we have 10, which is enough for a 1-to-1, but we've got our combined arms, so 2-to-1 there. Wow, they're just not rolling well at all. All right, we do not want to retreat the cav here. Let's go here and here. No, the horse artillery does not have to retreat. It was artillery bombarding, adding its strength and its range. All right. Here, this is 6 in the clear. And we have 8, which is 1-to-1. We have our odd shift for combined arms, so 2-to-1 there. Wow, 6. I have never seen such poor French die rolls here. This guy might actually retreat over to here. These guys cannot surround him. They got these streams here and such, so yeah, we're not gonna go over there. We're gonna go here. We're gonna back off to the flank a little bit. Oops. Some games could have a rule where you have to retreat towards your nearest supply source. There's not a supply source in these folio games and that. So, I mean, he had a choice of any of these 3 hexes to retreat to, but let's go ahead and stay out there on the flank. So let's hope those 6s are used up. As you know, there's no using up luck in a dice. They're independent random probabilities. Each roll is independent of the previous one. But as we're saying, you want to attack here first in advance and attack here. Now, if you attack here and you advance and you fail here, there is going to be a guy with his nose stuck out and you're at risk. If you're totally risk averse, you would do these attacks the other way around and have no chance of getting a kill. But if you just wanted to take Ligny, you want to minimize your chance of taking any losses, you'd attack here first to, say, advance the infantry under there to here. And then if this fails or succeeds, these guys here would still form a safe line. But we're trying to kill this guy, so we are going to take the risk and hope we don't roll 6s. So again, we had this guy and this guy attacking here. He's 8, and we've got 16, but we've got cav, infantry, and artillery under there. So it's a 3-to-1. 1. Okay. So this guy retreats. He retreats across the river. We're going to move that 5-4 infantry from there across. So he's got his neck stuck out because the Prussians can move here. If we don't take this hex of Ligny, this guy is potentially at risk. And so here we've got 8, 13, and this guy 16. 2-to-1, shifted up to 3-to-1, combined arms. We roll a 4, we succeed. So we did accomplish our goal of, and we need to advance. So let's take the infantry from here. Remember, you can only advance with 1 unit. Now in the campaign game, you can advance with 2 units. if you're advancing with a leader, I believe the rule is. But of course, moving up next to people with your leaders is risky. You risk potentially losing the leader when they counterattack and if they knock you out of the hex. So there it is. That's the French movement, recreating what the strategy was that I had in the how to play, albeit with some adjustments because we made two mistakes. One is we made a mistake in calculating the head in our head, the odds. Oops, you can't see that. I'm not. Back over here, this spot here, where we advanced into this, but that was a town, which I had missed that fact when I was calculating the odds. So we made some adjustments here, and then we ended up adapting our move here, and we actually had better odds than our original plan, just a different distribution of dudes. And in the whole, we missed. This is a 1-2, a 1-1, a 2-1, a 2-1, and a 2-1. But we did manage in our 3-3-1s, and we did kill the 2 units. They're off here at the side, but these 2 guys got killed. So we have killed 7 strength points. We have occupied 2 hexes of Ligny. So that means currently the Prussian morale is 6 points lower. So instead of that, was it 55? They're at 49. Now, we only have 7. Okay. Now, as we continue to hold these, if we do, remember, we don't keep, adjusting every turn. It's just at this moment, how many of those hexes do we control? Multiply that times 3. Look at that Prussian morale level, make sure that's lower, and compare what you've currently killed against that level. So don't score those points every turn. That's not the way it works. All right, so I'm going to call it quits here. We'll continue our how to play. I'm going to switch to the mode of doing not showing all the movements and combats, and just sort of doing like little bits of important stuff. I may show a couple of the individual battles and dice those out, but mostly it'll be like a whole portion of turn back and forth. Now, so do look for coming soon-ish, sometime in February, hopefully our first episode on how to think, decision-making in war games, ways of thinking, and we will be discussing certain books as we do that, that talk about certain strategy of thinking and decision-making in the rule. Not related to war games, but we're going to apply them to war games. So this has been Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness, the start of our playthrough of Ligny. Let me put that up. Ligny from Napoleon's Last Battle Quad. And this is the first game in my 10 games for 2025 for the War Rooms 10-game challenge. 10/12. There you got 2 alternates this year. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Sorry for the mistakes and the little churn I had in there dealing with those, but that's part of, Battlefield Command, dealing with like, oops, things go awry, and how do you adapt to that and adjust? And we'll look at coming up. Was this a good plan? Was this good decision making on how we attacked? And by some measures, oh my God, we failed so many combats, and there's like, oh, we did great. We killed all the troops that we were hoping to kill. But we'll talk about that gauging of results and how sometimes our way of gauging results and evaluating where our decision's good, that process can be flawed. So stay tuned for all that. So take care of y'all. And remember, take care of your games, and they will take care of you. Ciao.